What up, Ty? AVCT, Tom Squeeze ticker. I have no idea what's going on with that, bro. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. What's going on, Gaston? Gaston, you bull or bear? I'm pretty sure you have to be bull. What's up, FIFA? What's going on? What's going on? What's up, Roger? Hopefully, everyone closed the day green. I think there was practically no reason to really close red. Did I catch Amazon today? I caught a little bit of it. I got a little scalp on Amazon. I mean, I'll give you guys a true story here of what happened to me today, but um, I'll pretty much do something today a little bit out of the ordinary to really try and help those of you that maybe a better guidance for all of you. And that'll probably help you going into tomorrow and also the days to come here. So that's really what will be my focus here tonight. Try to switch it up to really give you guys a better guidance, uh, better forecast of what to look for, what to keep your eyes on, and what really actually helped my day in particular. All right. But hopefully you guys actually did close green. Today was definitely not a day that I particularly expected. I think given the fact that when we actually woke up, Nasdaq futures were up about 180 points this morning. We ended up retracing all 180 points on Nasdaq futures down to literally flat to red to only literally rip about over 300 points on Nasdaq futures. Now, if you probably asked me last night if futures were really going to move about 400 points on NASDAQ, I probably would have told you that you were crazy. And you probably also heard Dapper and Sig pretty much saying that we were literally over the range that we particularly would have saw on a regular day for futures. So that was something that was a little bit out of the nori, that out of the ordinary, and I don't think any of us really expected it. So that was really just crazy. When I saw us give up the entire 180 point gain, I was pretty much expecting a choppy day to a little bit of a bounce. And I ended up getting in with Avery on the video calls. You probably heard us talking about that earlier in the day. That kind of set my day off pretty badly. I didn't necessarily obey my stop loss like I should have. So that kind of put me in pretty much in a hole to really start the day, trying to climb out of that and then just scalping my way through. But what really ended up pretty much making my day better than what I expected out of that NVDA debacle this morning, that I ended up not obeying my stop loss, closing it out, and then seeing it just rip literally out the like an hour after market. I was like, wow, that's insane. But I did end up catching Amazon. I ended up getting more so into Tesla, and that's what I was actually gonna get into. Is what I really saw with Tesla, and maybe I should actually probably start with Tesla on this one, which I thought I actually had Tesla on this chart, but I didn't. Thought I actually added it to my watch list here. Did I not? All right, so here goes Tesla. And this is what I was going to touch bases on is, and this is what really saved the day here, and knowing what to really look at and what to pay attention to for those of you that really just you want a better guidance. You don't want what ended up happening today. You got mixed signals really early in the day, and that's what I want to try to be here to give you guys that guidance. And what you really saw here out of Tesla today was just a ripper. You saw the volume really come in pretty early. You saw the rapid go off really early. I know that Dan was in that with onslaught of other people that got into that. I know that Straight was probably in the chat also. He was calling for 880. We got a beautiful little bottom, a beautiful little island bottom reversal here that we got. And we saw this just literally just rip. But what we ended up getting out is we ended up having those rapids pretty early in the morning. That ended up being literally a head fake, more so than less. And then we ended up getting the Nimbus at the same time. But what really caught my eye after I got out of that NVIDIA debacle was the following two Nimbus that came through after the fact. And that's what I ended up seeing the buyers really start to accumulate and accumulate into Tesla. And that's what caught my eye. I ended up getting a really nice position into Tesla, and that closed my day really beautifully. And that's what I was really looking at is not only the two Nimbus that came in that followed after, but what they were also hitting in minor, which you can see on the flow alerts page. You saw them actually hitting Tesla calls repeatedly, going for 930s, 940s, 950s, going into this week, expiration, going out of the money. And that's what was more so convincing here. You saw that beautiful rip. So right around the head fake time that we got this around 9:46, that was your little bit of a head fake that you got right around this little choppy zone here before we ended up breaking down and flushing. That was your head fake right there. But once we ended up getting the two following Nimbus, right around 11, when we ended up starting to get this reversal, right around this area right here where you saw we were going to probably get another leg down, which I expected to go back down to 880. That was the key level that I was watching for. We saw those two Nimbus come right through and we saw the minor flow literally just following right behind those Nimbus. That's what was really the key right there into getting into Tesla. And once it broke that key level here of potentially making another high, another higher high after that V-shaped bottom there, that's what I was really watching out of that, and that was a beautiful little candle that you saw that literally just took this straight to the moon, basically. And that's what really caught my attention more so, and that's what I'm really looking for you guys to pay attention to in the coming days is although we got the head fake of that Nimbus and the Rapid early in the morning, what you want to see is despite that we ended up getting that flush and a little bit of a V-shaped recovery, you saw those Nimbus come right back with the minor flow following that. That was the key into getting into Tesla. Of course, you still want to have a stop loss, just like you would have had a stop loss here on the Rapids if that didn't work out for you, and the Nimbus, you would have wanted to have a stop loss. But this was on another entry point that you wanted to pay attention to. And if you got into that, then you ended up riding this risk free all the way to the top, basically. Because you would have ended up taking profits and you would end up having runners until the top. So that's what I was really watching for. And the other thing that I paid attention to was, but by the time this was already midday, this was about 1, 2 o'clock that Biden ended up talking, and then NASDAQ futures were already up about 300 points. What ended up crossing my mind at that point, as I was pretty much scalping Tesla later on in the evening with Dapper, is that what I was watching for is that if Nasdaq futures ended up pulling back, what was really going to end up pulling back with tech? It was primarily going to be the names like Microsoft, like Apple, and like Amazon. Because we know that Tesla's usually on an island by itself. It's not usually phased by the fact that Nasdaq is necessarily pulling back. And so that's what you ended up seeing, a little bit of a dip, and you got that rip right into close. So that's what one thing that I was looking for is what was going to have relative strength if Nasdaq futures decided to pull back from up 300 plus. So that was my other signal as far as looking at what ticker I really wanted to scalp towards the afternoon. And that's why Tesla was really just a bigger key for me in the afternoon rather than really going after Apple, despite the volume that we saw on Apple and also the dark pool, which I know that Jay also posted in premium chat for everyone to look at. All right. So that was one thing that I wanted to point out was paying attention to the Nimbus that came out, paying attention to the follow through after the dump with getting another Nimbus, and then also the minor flow that hit. So that was the one that I wanted to point out there to you guys. But also looking into Amazon, and I know that Jay was actually asking if I got caught on Amazon. I pretty much was looking at this ascending channel, and this is what I was pretty much just extending my trend lines, my resistance and support. I literally just extended it going all the way up. So as I saw it pretty much bouncing right off the support level, that was literally my buy point. I ended up getting into one massive candle. It wasn't this candle. I ended up getting in right around this area when we had this little bit of a gap, if you want to say. I ended up getting here and I held right into the middle of this candle, in which I sold right in the middle of that candle. So that was one scalp that I ended up getting into, and I ended up scalping right out of this wedge in which we got a little bit of a break, and that was a quick scalp as well that I got into Amazon. I didn't hold it very long. I didn't pretty much catch that entire move. I was just scalping because by the time that I got in NVDA and I was paying attention to Tesla, I was literally just in between tickers, just scalping for most of the day. But this had a beautiful ascending channel, and if you looked at the rapids at what time they ended up coming out at 12:46, that was right around 12:46 will put us right into the top of resistance. And that's what they ended up trying to chase. And this is usually when I say, and you hear me preaching pretty much on live, use a limit order. Pretty much do not ever try to get a market order. Is because what may have happened there is that you would have probably got filled right at the resistance, and that probably would have literally just killed your premium right there. All right. So that's something that you want. That's why I always preach: try to get a limit order. Usually try to lowball yourself because if you ended up getting in on the resistance, that would have been really bad right there, and you would have hit your stop loss. But if you ended up sending in a lowball order, you would have got this wick all the way down on this candle, and then you would have got that pop that would have gave you your 10% right back up. So that's another key thing, important factor that I want to also point out right on those rapids. If you set a market order or you try to get in close to the resistance, you probably hit your stop loss and you're just probably kicking yourself. You set a low ball order, set a limit order, and you get filled on a wick down. So that way the next wick up, you can get your 10% and be out. All right. And then after that, we ended up seeing right around 11:52. A few minutes after that, we ended up getting close enough to the support here. Right around 11, that was 12. Oh, that was actually earlier. 11:42. I had it backwards. 11:42 was right around this candle. Right on this little kill candle that we looked like. It looked like it was going to be a kill candle. Also brought us right down to support here. And this would have been where you ended up making a little bit of a line to see if we ended up breaking that little bit of a consolidation period that we had. And then you saw that massive candle that literally just took us straight back into resistance on this ascending channel. So that was a beautiful one. If you ended up getting in the usuals, and actually I apologize, that was actually yesterday. I'm looking at. So it was only the rapid that went off today. I thought I caught just today's action, but that was yesterday. But it was primarily just a rapid that you would have caught on this one, and then you would have had to identify this ascending channel that we ended up having. All right. So that was it for what we got on Amazon. The other one was also NVDA. I know that we ended up getting flow on NVDA, and I know that also, and this is what the funny part was, that I ended up getting right around in this area on this 1 week. Ended up getting that gap up. We ended up retracing that entire 180 point move on NASDAQ futes. And I was trying to time the bottom here after the gap fill to get a reversal back to the top, but it continued to bleed out. So I ended up getting out, trying to get out on this pop right here on this green candle. That one green candle was when I ended up getting out because I saw us fall right below the gap fill. And I got out on that green candle and I literally just saw it flush. And I know that Avery ended up buying back into NVIDIA. And then what we ended up having today was we had those. Uh, First, we ended up getting an unusual, but that was a little bit later on in the day. You would have had to catch the knife here. You would have caught that reversal. Kind of like a little bit of a reversal, like how Tesla actually looked. You would have caught this little reversal right here, in which this would have been your full V-shaped recovery. You would have saw that pullback, and you would have saw this break that high to make another high. All right. Well, we ended up getting, that was at 12:45. You had a little bit of a consolidation area here, and you saw that we got the unusual put. That was at the point where I actually thought we were going to hit resistance, or we might have double topped from the peak of the day, from that morning high. And I thought we were probably going to double top. That didn't end up working out, and I'm glad I didn't end up getting a position in this one. But you would have had to obey your stop loss, or you probably would have had to get in a limit order, or pretty much lowballing yourself in reverse to on a spike, and then you would have had to probably likely either get out at break even or you ended up getting your stop loss triggered. So that one did not work out today for that unusual put. But then to follow it up right around 218 or so on this middle of this chop here, 218 was right at the high of this candle, right on this little bit of a reversal candle. We ended up getting that Nimbus alert. That was a little bit of a tricky one as well because you would have saw this reversal, made it look like it was a little bit of a double top action. We were going to get a full reversal, but you would have had to have actually realized that this was forming a wedge, probably waited out just a bit. I actually ended up forming this wedge and I actually put it in premium for you guys. So if you ended up seeing that and knowing that Avery was already in it for that matter as well, once I put in that chart into premium, it ended up popping right at the bottom here, about a $3 move from the bottom. So that one, NVIDIA's alerts were a little bit tricky. I will give you that one. But you probably would have had to follow Avery, and that's why you do have us on live. Same thing also with MasterCard. And Tatum's also in chat here. If you ended up following him on MasterCard puts, then that you end up scoring a W on that one. Right? You ended up winning on that one. But there are alerts where times where it's not gonna make sense and you're like, but damn, that didn't work out. That's exactly why we're here to really give you that guidance. And so, like in the video one here, you would have followed the guidance on Avery. As the MasterCard alert, that it just kept ripping, literally just ripping out of the gate on those MasterCard puts. You would have followed Tatum, and he gave you a beautiful entry on that one, and it literally immediately got about a $3 drop off of that. Right. The other one was Target. I know that Tom was actually following this one. And okay, I was about to say, Tom was actually following this one. I know that he actually got January calls on target. This was another one that actually looked pretty beautiful. The setup looked amazing. And so he got calls on this one. It actually worked out. If you ended up getting in right around 11:18, this was right on this little island, this little 3 bar action here that you got at the bottom. You ended up getting in here. They got in around 217. It ended up pushing towards 220. So that was about a $3 move that you ended up getting, even if you took weeklies on this as they did. So that was a beautiful move if you caught that $3 move. And I know that Tom actually mentioned that he ended up getting January calls on target, if I'm not mistaken. So this was a beautiful one, and the beauty about this is that you pretty much saw each of us in different tickers out of the alerts. Tom and Target, Tatum and MasterCard, Avery and NVDA. So that was the beautiful thing is, so you go to those guys to ask them if there's any questions that you have in particular tickers off of the flow alerts. You go to them and you ask them for what their pretty much their expertise or what their advice is in each of those tickers. All right. Expedia was another one. This was a beautiful one off of the Rapids. This literally just ripped. If anyone took these Rapids, congrats, because this was literally a banger. I don't think anyone literally was expecting it to hold it that long. But around 10:06, uh, yeah, 10:06 they ended up getting in. They got in at 169. This literally topped out at 178. That was just a banger of a play right there. And it was really about reopening trades. We saw the cruise lines, the airlines, the travel stocks, they were all just booming. And this was literally one of those names that followed suit in that entire rip. And then, of course, the last one was Apple. Apple was just a banger as well. And it looks like, where was my actual alert page? Alright, so pretty much Apple. Let me actually take a look. What was the full alerts on Apple real quick? Let me see. I thought I had it here. I guess I didn't. So what they ended up hitting pretty much for the day was we had an Apple Rapid that hit right around 10:03 here. 10:03 we had that hit. Let's see what time that was. 10:03, 10:03. So right around this area where Nasdaq futures were ended up giving up to 180 points this morning, you ended up getting it on the week down. So what you have to do is, like I said, usually set a limit order, set a low ball order, and you would have got that fill right on the bounce back up on those next two candles, and that would have been your in and out for the rapid. But then you ended up following it up with a Nimbus alert at 11:08, right down at the bottom here, right towards the bottom. Actually, right in the same spot where Tesla actually got its Nimbus. If you look at where Tesla actually got its Nimbus, right on the little bit of a V-shaped recovery, on this little bit of a consolidation, that's exactly where Apple actually also got its Nimbus. So that was the same spot for Tesla as well, and that was just beautiful. So following that, I mean, that's why I say pretty much rapids. You know to set the limit orders, set the low ball orders. The Nimbus usually look to see the follow through on it. Look to see what the follow through is on those Nimbus before you particularly just get in just blindly. See, you always want to do your own TA, see what the bottom level is, what the consolidation is. If I was looking at these Apple Nimbus right here, and this is why I say that you literally would have drew a line right at the bottom of this consolidation area to know, okay, look, this is my bottom level. If it ended up breaking below, that probably would have triggered my stop loss. Of course, it wicked below, but that's where your stop loss of whatever it is, 10, 15%, that's where that would have came into play. Hopefully you wouldn't have got waked out, but you would have looked to find this base right here in which you just basically formed this little triangle action. And you would have looked to see if it ended up breaking that resistance or if it ended up breaking that support. And that was the same action that you ended up getting on Tesla off of those Nimbus as well. So that's what you're looking at. Hopefully that kind of guides you. But biggest winner again today was pretty much watching how Tesla's action was. And even if I was someone walking in blind into the market, literally late in the morning, was looking at the fact that Tesla ended up having about 4 Nimbuses. And it ended up having a rapid on top of that, plus minor flow just repeatedly hitting itself. That's what I was watching for, and that's what I knew what ticker to really look at and go after. Of course, today was the day where you could literally just pick any ticker, and it literally just moved. Did we all expect this kind of range? No, we didn't. I will say that. And of course, I know that there's going to be people that ended up trying to FOMO into the end of the day, trying to get calls, and are probably even swinging calls because they're probably kicking themselves for missing the action today. There's always going to be another play. There's always going to be another day, another ticker that's going to be triggered. Today we actually didn't get that many flow alerts either. Tomorrow might be a different day. Tomorrow we might end up getting about 8 rapids. Who knows, right? But there's always another day, so don't try to FOMO into a day like today, and then you're probably looking at futures and you're like, but damn, why did I end up swinging calls? And you're probably going to be kicking yourself by morning. So just be cautious of that. Today was a really big move for Nasdaq futures. I mean, literally about a 400-point swing. I definitely did not expect that. From up 180 points to going flat to red on the day and then ripping just 300 plus points was just an insane day. But other than that, I think that's pretty much what I was wanting to focus in on. Is really looking at the alerts, really looking to key in on what's pretty much hot on the day, correlating that with what has the most alerts, what's really hitting in minor flow, and then pretty much building off your watch list off of that for the day, knowing what to either scalp or what to really trade for that matter. All right. But other than that, yeah, and I know Snow was a banger. I think Dapper was literally kicking himself because he got into Snow, but he was not expecting that kind of rip, and it literally just kept going. I saw the 460 call flow coming in early in the morning. You probably heard me say that on a voice, but that was so far out of the money. I don't think anyone expected that to happen. Neither did we expect Nasdaq futures to go 300 plus points, right? But that's why you end up taking profits and you leave runners for moments like that where you end up expecting Snow to only go about 20 points. And then guess what? It ends up ripping about 26, 23, 26 points that it ended up moving today. All right. But other than that, quick glance, I haven't changed my futures chart at all pretty much. I think it pretty much still looks the same. But giving you a quick glance of what I end up having here, not much to really say there's really a directional move here going into tomorrow. But going back to last week Thursday, that we ended up topping off and ended up starting the dump fest that we had, we pretty much got a halfway back from that downtrend that we had from last week Thursday to yesterday. So we're halfway back. We'll see if we end up continuing this uptrend in which is possibly the start of the Santa Claus rally. It may not be. We'll see. Typically, by definition, they say the Santa Claus rally starts the week after Christmas. So we'll particularly see if this ends up starting today and we get that follow through tomorrow. So that'll be what we'll be watching. But we got a little bit of a halfway back here from that downtrend that we started on last week Thursday. And we'll see if we get a full V-shaped recovery. Pretty much like we saw this morning off of that action, that little dump fest that we had this morning, and we'll see if we get a V-shaped recovery. Otherwise, if we end up, this particularly ends up being a lower high and we make another leg down. All right, so that's what we'll be watching for. S&P is pretty much more or less the same thing. We ended up getting the halfway back, so same scenario here. But biggest thing is seeing a continuation out of today's price action, huge price action today. If we're gonna continue that V-shaped recovery as it's anticipated, or do we get the leg back down in which this is basically gonna be our lower high? All right. But other than that, we'll see what tomorrow brings. We'll see what alerts tomorrow is really going to be putting out there for us. I think it's really a choppy day tomorrow. More so is what I'm expecting. After a 400-point swing on Nasdaq futures, I don't expect another ripper tomorrow per se. So it'll likely be a little bit of a choppy day. I know that Tesla and Apple's probably going to be on the top of everyone's watch list, along with Amazon. You could probably even throw Microsoft in there as well. Microsoft really just snuck up on us, and that was another thing that actually caught my attention late in the morning was that we didn't see Apple and Microsoft really join the rally this morning per se. As I think Nasdaq was up about 200 points, and Apple and Microsoft were really just lagging in the market. And once we just saw Apple start to rip, Microsoft literally just I think it literally just spiked out of nowhere. Someone was asking me about levels on Microsoft, and I think Avery actually gave a level on the Microsoft as well, and that just ripped out of nowhere. And they just joined the rally, and then we just saw Nasdaq futures just continue to push as we saw, as we know, pretty much Apple and Microsoft have a lot of weight in the tech sector. All right. Other than that, though, let's see what the market gives us tomorrow. We can easily go red to green tomorrow morning, and then we'll be watching those top names, the Teslas of the world, Apples, and Amazon, of course. We'll see what they end up doing tomorrow. This is truly the start of the Santa Claus rally, or do we end up getting a fake out and another reversal tomorrow? to the downside. All right. But let's see what tomorrow brings. Other than that, hopefully going through the alerts kind of gives you a better walkthrough of how it works, pretty much how to really set your stop losses, how to really play those rapids, and that'll help you going into tomorrow and the rest of the week here. All right, guys. Other than that, we'll call it a night. I'll see you guys in the morning, bright and early, and hopefully tomorrow's another green day for us. All right. You guys have a good night. All right.